Do you feel exhausted from constantly trying to prove your worth to people who actively refuse to respect you? When you constantly deliver your best to an audience that ignores your output, the tool strips away your physical energy and drains your mental reserves. This line graph illustrates a concept called a validation deficit. It shows the widening gap between the effort you invest, which climbs steadily, and the respect returned, which flatlines at zero. That expanding red zone is where your energy goes to die, a closed door you keep trying to force open. If you keep operating in this deficit, the constant rejection starts to fracture your own sense of self-worth. You begin to internalize their lack of appreciation as your personal failure. Pushing harder against the wall solves nothing. Protecting your dignity requires recognizing that the environment itself is structurally broken, rather than assuming your output is flawed. Consider the fable of Nislo. He was a rooster who operated as a farm's living, breathing alarm system. Every morning, long before sunrise, he acted as their first line of defense. He approached the task with absolute maximum effort. Standing tall on the perimeter fence, he projected his call through the morning mist, putting his entire physical being into waking the property. The humans, however, hated him for it. They woke up irritable, shouted insults at him, and actively threw stones to shut him up. The disconnect was total. Nislo was executing a vital security suite, but the humans on the receiving end processed his critical function as an obnoxious nuisance. His protective instinct actively put him in physical danger. Every time he performed his job perfectly, his reward was verbal abuse and flying rocks. Perform excellent work long enough in a low appreciation environment, and you will eventually transform from a protector into a target. Nislo reached a breaking point, but it was entirely internal. He stopped viewing the thrown stones as constructive feedback on his volume and correctly identified them as pure disrespect. Instead of crowing louder to justify his presence or attacking the farmers in retaliation, he chose composure. He looked at the stones on the ground, turned his back on the hostile environment, and walked away. This is a silent departure. It is a strategic, deliberate withdrawal of your presence, executed specifically to insulate your self-worth from further damage. This flow diagram shows the mechanics of this boundary in action. Notice there is no negotiation and no final plea for understanding. Node A simply severs the connection, completely stopping the flow of value and leaving Node B instantly in the dark. When explanations and hard work fail to earn respect, quietly removing your presence is the most unassailable boundary you can draw. That night, the atmospheric pressure on the farm shifted. Without Nislo patrolling the perimeter, the air settled into a heavy, unprotected silence. The removal of that single, unappreciated asset created a massive blind spot. The farm's entire security protocol disappeared in an afternoon. External threats immediately noticed. Thieves approached the property, specifically exploiting the sudden lack of noise to easily bypass the perimeter. Moving through the dark, they systematically cleared out the pens. The entire theft was accomplished entirely because the early warning system had been unplugged. The next morning, the humans finally got exactly what they asked for. They slept in. They woke up late, walked outside, and found vacant pens and devastating loss. Staring at their empty farm, the reality set in. The piercing noise they had violently rejected was the exact mechanism keeping their livelihood safe. You rarely have to explain your value to people who take it for granted. Often, your true worth is accurately measured by the systemic collapse that occurs in your absence. Nislo's physical exit directly mirrors a vital psychological tool you can use in your own life, the practice of silent forgiveness. This is the conscious, definitive decision to stop knocking on a door that has repeatedly proven it will not open. Forgiving the situation internally does not mean absolving the other party for their bad behavior. It means releasing yourself from the exhausting loop of trying to extract validation from an empty well. Acknowledging that an environment is inherently unfair and making peace with that reality is the mandatory first step before you can redirect your efforts. Once you sever that dead connection, you preserve your energy. The final protocol is taking that capability and purposefully moving it to a fertile location. This animation shows the ultimate goal. You carry your value out of the restrictive, hostile red zone
and plant it in a space that respects and reciprocates your output, allowing your energy to pulse and expand. When your daily contributions align with a receptive audience, the constant anxiety of having to prove yourself vanishes, replaced by a quiet, steady confidence. Take an inventory of where you spend your energy and value your own worth enough to walk away from places that don't. Till then, stay patient, stay grateful, and keep moving forward in life.